Oh, look, here we go. Election Wednesday, bring it in. Lots of us are wearing matching Netherlands hoodies. Um, there were a lot of surprises in the election last night. The biggest one of all is I'm not hungover today. Just didn't never really felt like drinking. It didn't happen. How's everybody doing?
I'm in a fog. I'm happy, but I'm happy to be here with you guys to talk it out instead of living in my head. So let's get it.
Good. We're here for you. How about you, Jarod? How's it going?
I'm maintaining, right? I've been saying forever, this is a continuous fight. I'm just continuing.
David?
But yeah, I stopped drinking early. I had a couple sips and just there was nothing to celebrate, and it was just a dark feeling. And no matter what happens, it's kind of a dark feeling, but I'm sure we'll get into it.
It's a big mix of stuff. I'll tell you what, I talked to a guy yesterday, a smart guy, plugged in guy who was in his car going to buy 2 months worth of food because he was worried about Armageddon. It seems like we don't have that. That's kind of a win, right? People generally voted. Like, we didn't have guns at the polls, did we?
No.
Well, there was one guy.
Okay. That's a good sign. One guy. That's good.
Yeah, there's always one guy, but you're absolutely right. I know a lot of people were like, what's your election day plan? And check on your parents. It was basically like getting ready for COVID all over again. Some people felt, but we don't have that.
My wife had a good experience. My wife had a good experience at the precinct yesterday that she thought was a pretty heavy Trump experience, but she said there's some really sweet stories of moms voting and with their kids in tow. And she described one young Black woman who was she thought it was a nurse, but she was in her scrubs, like just got off her shift, and her young children were with her. And she voted, and then she like said a prayer and did the cross sign. And Chrissy thought it was just such a sweet thing. And she wants whoever the person voted for to win. She doesn't know who she voted for. She just wants her to win. And but there was also lots of not so sweet stuff. But it was peaceful. That's Henry's point. It was uneventful, completely uneventful. It's her third election she's done. It was as uneventful as any other one, which is that's a good sign anyway.
So there were like 700 different bad scenarios, and like the worst two didn't happen. So that's good.
Right. We got to find joy where we can, right?
It feels like in just my everyday interactions yesterday, many people were out voting, right? Like, so it seemed, I mean, of course we see the numbers, the turnout was higher than it's been in quite some time. So that was good. I was talking to Henry, and I mean, I voted via absentee ballot almost a month and a half ago, and make sure I check my ballot, accepted, received, all that, like to make sure we're all good. And I was talking to a source yesterday who was actually on the phone with me, waiting in line. I was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm in line to vote." So it was, so everybody's about doing their thing, conducting interviews, doing whatever, while they're exercising their franchise to vote, which it's important that we participate in this process. And we can get into, the problems with it, because of course there are. Nothing's perfect in life, but the fact that so many people are turning out, that's a good sign. We hope it continues, not just in generals, but in your locals and in elections that happen every year.
Yeah. I had a friend who she had moved from Bristol to New York, and she was unsure. She was registered to vote in New York and all this stuff. And I basically yelled at her and I was like, get it done. Like, I will drive you to any DMV in New York State that you need right now to get registered. And I was super proud of her. She ended up getting a New York, because she didn't have a New York State license. She ended up getting a New York State ID, voted by mail. And it was the first time that my whole like group chat, whether it be IG or whatever, we're all like, did you vote? How did you vote? We're checking up on each other. And I think if there's any good to come out of this election, that is it.
And my children voted for the first time at 19. My daughter was texting with us last night, and we talked to her. She was updating every 10 minutes on her phone. I was on the phone this morning with Henry. I was on the Zoom call when she called, just like she's a little confused, like, what's really happening? I'm reading this and this. And I talked to my son yesterday after practice. They had a sunset curfew because he's in the state capitol. And I'm so thankful his coaches actually, they care about their players. It could be crazy. I said, Max, what are you worried about? You guys are big, strong guys. He's like, Dad, it's just a lot of racists. And we're just going to lay low in case something happens. But I could hear in his voice that what happened was going to matter. And so, and I know his whole team voted. My daughter was with some friends and they were following it. That's a good sign. Like what Adena said is right. I think I voted in 1984 when I was 19. But I didn't really think about it, honestly. I didn't really think about it. And my kids are thinking about it. They're 19. So that's a good sign.
It's interesting. Did you guys see Dabo Sweeney and a couple of other NCAA coaches were like, I don't think it's a good idea to give kids the time off to vote. It breaks
my God.
the game schedule. And I was like, what the? Like,
oh my God.
Let's talk about not.
The worst. They're the worst.
Yeah, Debo is an awful human being.
Like, awful. I had no idea.
And if you think that, like, just don't say it, right? Like, leave it in your head.
He's anyway. I can't even.
He's flagrant about his belief system. He really is.
So I have like 100 thoughts, and I do think there's no getting around the giant, like, terrible news that, like, Trump has done what he did for the last 4 years and increased his vote total in America, which is just mind blowing. And if we want to talk about that, I'm fine with it. But I was saying to David this morning, like, I feel a little bit like there was a moment when Team USA lost to the national team of Greece, 2012, maybe? Is that right? 2010, something like that. 2012, I think it was 2012. And everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, American basketball is down the tubes. We're all going to hell." And I called David, and basically he's like, "We're fine. Like, it was just a really weird game." He's like, "There was one time when like a Greek player hit a three while falling down out of bounds, then cracked up because it was like hilarious that it went in." It's like, this happens to basketball sometimes. Like, it's not because you're worse. It's just because you didn't win that game. And I'm not saying for a second that I think what happened here is like that, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like we're in the third quarter. Like, let's win the damn game and then let's soul search. Like, right now, I'm like, there's going to be court battles today in Pennsylvania, right? And and all these yet to be counted votes and blah blah blah. I do think there's a little bit of, like, for me, I'm like, it's a tactical moment. Like, let's get the tactics right of the next few weeks to complete the election and get the votes counted. And then if we want to beat each other up over theoretical issues, I'm all for it, but not in the middle of the game. No, I don't want to do it in the middle of the game.
I mean, we are what are we at right now? About 140 million counted votes, something like that.
Yeah,
sound about right. Okay, and roughly half, right, decided to rock with the status quo. And there we go, right? So 66,457,000, right?
Yeah.
I start every assumption with this country as, at a minimum, half of it is racist, right? Like, that is my baseline. Like, and the reality is it's probably higher than that, right? And we have eons and eons and eons of evidence that support and suggest this. The New York Times put out their breakdown demographically, and everything went the way that you thought it would, right? It was 55% of white women this time, not 53, right? Like, it's all evangelicals, it's all the same things that we know. And that is the system, and the people that make up this country, by and large white people, are generally concerned with keeping the status quo. What is the status quo? White supremacy and racism, right? Like, that's because it benefits them. Whether or not they think I'm a good person, I'm a whatever, it's always about your self-interest, right? This works for me. Like, why would I do something different? Several weeks back, we played that Frontline PBS show video of that woman talking about, well, it's like, I just don't want nomadic people living here. And she's talking around every possible thing. And again, if I were to go to that woman's house right now and talk to her, she would tell me she is a good person, right? Because you see, she couldn't even get the words out of her mouth to say it, even though she was saying it, right? That's how so many people operate and think and believe and behave. And we need to stop being surprised by it. Like, what? No more surprises. This is who we are and have always been since the dawn of time.
But I also think there's a messaging thing, right? Like, Obama got a lot of votes too, right? In the same America. His message was about hope, and it was a little bit of a different time, and we weren't dealing with pandemics and a Trump-inflamed, like, downtrodden bunch of people, right? I think there's like this, there's this idea that ending white supremacy, which means welcoming in Ilhan Omar, right? Like, is what everybody wants to do, right? I think that it's not, like, diversity isn't a common goal for everybody, unfortunately, right? So it's like, what is the message that, you know, everybody looking out for their best interests out there could go for, right? I think it might be, I know I've written a lot about money laundering and offshore and the things that happen with the 0.01% richest people in the world, but I think that is part of it. Like, that's kind of why we don't have health insurance. It's like all this money.
The messaging.
I think there's not, it's not even just tax rate stuff. It's like criminal behavior, right?
Yeah.
Criminal behavior of the very rich is, I think, actually potentially a unifying thing that we just neither party's talking about that.
Except how do we, because to your point, messaging is correct. How do we shift the mindset? Because and we can make a basketball analogy. It's when you look at how fans typically identify with GMs and ownership more than they identify with players, right? Like,
yeah, fantasy GM, not fantasy power forward, right?
Right. It's the same thing. It's like, well, wait a minute. Like, you actually likely have more in common with this person than you do with that person. But for whatever reason, the collective we cannot switch our mindsets around it, because the messaging by one group is always, oh, you would be, head of your own company or whatever too, if not for these things that are causing your problems. And it's like,
these temporary setbacks where you're not a GM. Yeah.
Right. It's like, no, that's not it. No, not it.
Is it a thing that you vote for the thing that you aspire to be? I don't understand voting or keeping your oppressor in, right? This person keeps you unemployed. This person keeps you sick. This person is actually the antithesis of what you are. They're rich. They skate around laws, but they are just like me. Actually, they are the complete opposite of you. The other person, and the other person, pays millions in taxes, visits his dead family members and who've died from the same things that you've suffered from. And it just seems like they're more relatable, but I just don't understand the psyche of it. What is that syndrome where is it Stockholm syndrome? Yeah, where you just like start to feel sorry for your oppressor. And is that what we're experiencing now?
I think there's a hobby that we have that is not a common hobby, which is asking, like, how do things work? Right? like Adena, when you say like paying your taxes is like a good thing, like, because you can kind of play out like, oh, so then they have more money so we can have a better school and healthcare, whatever that your priorities are, right? So okay, I'm totally gonna make this basketball analogy because I can make a basketball analogy out of anything, but this is to me like plus minus stats. It's like, well, what works? Like, if you put Steph Curry out there, the team just plays really well. I don't have to understand how it all works, but like, I have to be asking myself what makes a good system, right? If I just ask that question, you end up with like, I don't know what the Warriors are doing it. Whatever a good system is, they're doing it. If you don't ask that, if you're just like, what kicks ass, then you end up with like, well, rest in peace, Kobe, right? Like, Kobe was not very efficient, but he was on the highlights. He was he was a great player. He gets in your head. It's kind of the great man theory of government, right? It's like, this is the best player is going to look a certain way. In this regard, I think Donald Trump is a killer, right? Like, he's in the highlights. Like, he looks like a badass. And I've been to Miami, like, Miami's kind of accepting and forgiving of a super rich guy with a private club over here with a high wall around it. Like, yeah, like everybody, like everything's a Maserati. You know what I mean?
But he didn't carry Miami. He just didn't lose it the way that, okay.
But no,
so I hear your point, of course.
He got an exceptional number of votes, and he got an inexplicably high number of votes in Miami, which swung Florida and the presidential election.
Yeah, but I think that's because our Cubans, Venezuelans are so fearful for communism. And I think going to your messaging point, we didn't address that nearly enough. But Biden, it's not my job. I did what I could. Biden didn't address it enough. The fear of communism, which is such a made up thing. But that was a big talking point for Trump. And I understand why they're sensitive to it.
Right. So I'm responding to Adena. I'm not disagreeing with you, David, but like, basically, like, wouldn't you want someone who like pays their taxes to make
of course. Right. No,
I don't think Miami does.
Yeah, no, they don't care about that.
Like, don't you want somebody who plays by the same rules as you, right? Like, if the other team is on the other side of the court with a video camera and your playbook, like, I at least want you to play fair. Like, I pay $2,000+ in taxes a year, which is definitely not what I pay. But like, this other guy and the other team isn't playing by the same rules. Like, so why would I continue to even want you in my league?
Yeah.
So there's something else, because I want to push back a tiny bit on Jarod's thing on half the country's racist, although I'm not going to quibble over percentage. It may be 45%. We're on the same team, I promise you. But I think there's another thing at play, because humans can be, it's easy to try to make it seem just black and white. And I don't mean by color, I mean just one of two things, 50-50, when in reality, we're very complex, organisms. But I do think that one of our biggest flaws as human beings is we just want to stick with what we've always done. And I told this to Henry, I'm not going to tell the story here, but as a coach, I was just the opposite. I just had no pride. I just want to win. And so I can easily flow between strategies based on how badly my first strategy and second or third strategy was doing. And that's not how most people in America think, or human beings around the world think. Most Republicans have always voted Republican, and most Democrats have as well. So we're talking about a very small number that tend to go back and forth. Reagan turned people, Obama turned people, Clinton turned people, and there's reasons for it as to why someone's more susceptible, maybe changing. But there is a strong, strong group of Republicans now who, it doesn't matter that Trump is everything Adena's describing. He's representing their side, and he's a bully about it. And so whether that book, it's not enough to be, right, you can't just not be a racist. You have to be an anti-racist. There's not enough of them, for sure. And so they don't even see the obvious things that Trump has that are flawed. He's just on their side, and they just are sticking with it. And everyone else has to be the enemy. And so to Henry's messaging point, that's what needs to be addressed once we get through the Supreme Court. Because I really think, and I want to hear what you guys think, I think Biden's going to win Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, and that's 270. And he's going to win the district in Nebraska. So it's going to be 270, 268. That's what I think, because I don't think he's going to win Carolina, Georgia, or Pennsylvania. And I think it's going to go to the Supreme Court. And they just got to flip one of those four states. And I worry that it's going to go 5-4 on behalf of, like, Roberts is going to side with the three liberals, and we're going to lose. That's what I think. What do you guys think?
Yeah, the Trump campaign already targeted it's going to be Arizona.
Yeah, well, Biden already won Arizona. Someone's saying in the chat right now.
So many orgs have called Arizona for Biden, but the Trump campaign said this morning that, like, they think that the AP was plain wrong and it's just not what it was, and blah blah blah. So they're kind of communicating where they think they're gonna fight in Pennsylvania, because they've already filed the lawsuits, and it sounds like Arizona to me too.
If it goes to the Supreme Court, we're in trouble, right? Like, that's just that's why they got it stacked the way they did.
He said it
and rushed Tony Barrett through, right? Like, we're done. But to your point, Coach, I think, and I hear what you're saying about the half and the numbers. We won't quibble over percentage, but what I think it is, and I don't know because I've never had it, but there is a value to the currency of whiteness that is just right. Like, for so many people, above all else, that thing means I am not treated as some kind of other, right? And that has an extremely powerful effect. Whether I'm poor, it doesn't matter. I know I'm not these other people, right? Like, and that means so much to so many people. And that is that sort of connective tissue, right? Whether or not, like, again, I go back to that woman in the frontline video. I'm not a racist, right? But like that's the thing. It's this currency that you can't really place a value on, but people know I'd rather have it than not have it, right? And that is what they tap into.
I think the value you can put the currency on, and I've said this to you guys before, is that, like, the ineptitude, right? You get to be really, really bad at your job, but as long as you're white, it's fine, right? And I say this all the time, like, Obama was president of the Harvard Law Association, all these other things, right? Bush was a C student, but he was white and had a great family, right? Trump is the bottom of the barrel when it comes to success in my mind. But I think the saying is, if you're black, get back; if you're brown, stay down; and if you're white, you're all right. Like, one of my African American history teachers told me that, and that's really what it is. So that is the currency that you can succeed no matter the odds. When in fact the odds for a black person is this. So yeah, I want to keep my 20-point advantage, right? And I think that's what they're doing.
And in many ways, right? Like, as much as people are like, Trump is the is the aberration. No, Barack Obama was the aberration, right? Like him being elected for 8 years, that was the aberration, right? Because we have all the other evidence to suggest otherwise, right? That 8-year stretch was the aberration, right? This is the reality that we're in right now.
I hope not. I do feel like Trump's very skillful and he has whipped up a lot of people. He's skillful at this like motivating the base thing, right? And I guess like we would all drive by these conservative churches with a lot of pickups on Sunday during the Obama years, right? And it'd be like, I don't know what happens in there, and it doesn't really matter, right? Under Trump, it does matter. It totally matters, right? Like we're gonna see those people they're gonna surround Kamala Harris's bus on the freeway and ram it like now we have to like that's scary. But I don't know if that's how it's always going to be, right? Like it feels a little desperate to me, and I do think there's like a I wish I would have restudied before this episode, but back in college we did do some studying about like the great man theory of politics, which tends to prevail in war, right? Like if you really stress I thought Trump might declare a war just to really freak us all out. So then you tend to just consolidate yourselves around whoever seems like the biggest, loudest, carrying the biggest gun person in the room, right? And but I'm like he got his war. Like it's coronavirus and Black Lives Matter and this hysteria that has gripped everybody. Like it kind of functioned maybe like the war, where a lot of people just coalesce behind the guy with the big gun.
To your point, Henry, I do believe that the body politic, from a voting standpoint, has proven to be democratic, right? Like in terms of capital R. In the last 8 elections, the Democratic Party has won the popular vote. So the body politic suggests that we don't vote Republican. The issue is, right, all the mechanisms in place that give Republicans an inordinate amount of power, right? The fact that Connecticut has, 6 electoral college votes, but like these random states in the South have double or triple. You're like, wait a minute, how's that work, right? Like, so it's this weird thing where it's like, all right, we have enough stuff in charge or in place to keep the small minority or smaller minority, they're not small, the smaller group in charge. And there is no, especially now with the Supreme Court the way it is, Mitch McConnell said it. We may lose the presidency, but it's going to take the Democrats a long time to change the Supreme. These guys are in their 40s? How old is Amy Coney Barrett? 40 something?
When did he say that?
Unless she gets killed, like shit, that's not great.
When did he say that, Jarod?
He said it a couple of weeks ago. When I thought he was resigned to the fact that we may lose the election to presidency.
Wow.
He's like, we got the Supreme Court, not worried. It'll take us decades to overchange that. And the reason is because he knew anytime we have an issue, we'll take it to the Supreme Court. And once they decide, that's it. It's over.
Well, unless you make a law, right?
But they'll fight it. This is the concern, Henry, is that even if we have laws, like the laws they're challenging right now are on the books and have precedent that these votes, of course, they should count. There's nothing that there's no argument they're going to make that really is credible. They're still going to make it. And so this is when Henry and I talked yesterday on the phone. This gives me hope that so far the Democrats in court against this Republican group right here are 11-0 in terms of voting rights. But I also said to him, I trust the local judge, even appointed by Trump, because in some cases they were, and still voted against the Republicans. Not voted, but chose, decided on their side. I trust them more than I trust Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Sadly, I have no faith, and I never should have. Why would we have faith in an institution? Would think of all the terrible things they've done based on politics. Why would I suddenly think now they're going to do the right thing? The local judge, I have more faith in.
The reason would, I don't know. I don't know if you don't want to weigh in here, JD, but I have no reason to have faith or not faith in the Supreme Court. It seems such a mess, but the reason would be for the reputation of the Supreme Court.
That's just Judge Roberts agrees with you.
To Jarod's point, like they are going to be there for 40 more years, and everybody thinks it's a joke of an institution. There's a different 40 years.
Well, I mean, we talk about reputation, but Amy appearing on the balcony of the White House, standing next to our president, like, broke rule number 1, and your rep's kind of ruined right now. You're looking very bipartisan by standing next to an acting president. I just think there's a lot of unwritten rules and ethics and things that we swear by, right? That should happen, but they're unwritten rules. And this Republican Party is breaking all of them in terms of ethical. They just are. Taraji P. Henson's skeptical face.
That's to Judy. Yeah, Judy, I understand it. I wish I had more faith in our Supreme Court. And I do think Justice Roberts has already done what Henry just said. He's already made some decisions that were not what anyone expected if you followed his conventional path, but he's going for the big picture here. He's trying to make sure that the Supreme Court doesn't become a laughingstock.
Or he's setting up this decision, right?
Yes, that's what people are arguing about. That's right. Yeah. Although he's not a Trump, I mean, he obviously wasn't appointed by Trump. And he doesn't necessarily like Trump based on what things I've read, because of things that Trump has said. But that's right, Henry. It could very well be. That's why I have no faith. And even with him, it's 5-4. Thomas doesn't care. And if Trump were to win, he would retire. He's not going to retire if Biden were to win. But if Trump would win, I think that he'll retire. That's what people are saying. Even Alito, they're talking about, is sick of this already. It's something that it's troubling that, and I said this to you guys before we went on air. Part of our angst right now is the fact that we don't know. And yet, if they had just counted the votes, Florida knew going into Election Day what the vote count was in early ballots, right? And amazingly enough, we have a Republican governor and allowed that. And that's a surprise. But if every state did that, Trump would have won some of these states, as he did. Biden would have won some of these states that we're counting now. And by 10 o'clock, we'd be asleep knowing who won. And the fact that we don't have that is exactly what those in power go. If you want to go all the way back to the aforementioned Electoral College, and this is to your guys' larger point, the minority, in a sense, have made sure they stay in power. And now they have a shot because people went to sleep at 10 o'clock thinking that Trump was going to win. They woke up seeing Biden probably is going to win. That's their only way to go to court and win in the first place. If we all saw the votes the second they were counted before we started counting day of votes, it'd have been a tight race. It'd have been a hell of a battle, and there'd have been no arguing anymore.
It might not be that, though, to be honest. This might just not be that close. It might be that we don't go to the Supreme Court. It's possible.
Right.
Possible.
Georgia, North Carolina, like Pennsylvania, like
Trump has to win one of those three to make sure that it's contested. If he loses Carolina, Georgia, and Pennsylvania, plus the ones already looking Biden, it's a landslide. It's a big win, and he really won't have anything to say. They're not going to overturn 5 states. They can overturn.
I was hoping that enough of the early ballots and early voting gave us like this 3-1 lead where we just kind of knew it couldn't come back. But like you said, Coach, this whole effect of not being able to count votes until like the day of or 7 p.m., we couldn't get that 3-1 lead. I'm interested and I don't know if this is jinxing it because Henry said, we gotta win the game. But like, if you had to give it a playoff, game situation, where do you think we are right now?
I'll tell you where we are. We are Pop pulling the plug on game 1 before LeBron. That's where we are. The game hasn't even started yet. The air conditioner was pulled. This is what Team Trump did. They pulled the plug.
Drink your Gatorade, LeBron. Drink your Gatorade.
Yeah. This is exactly what they game planned for.
Caleb says the OKC Jazz game that got canceled.
Yeah.
No, it's wild. Oh man.
Judy just posted a map, and Michigan was down to, was it 12,000? That's a little bit surprising to me. When you scrolled the cursor over each one, because Wayne County is where a lot of the votes are still left, and that's normally pro Biden. So what is it? So it's 32,000 with 8% left. I don't remember if he was, maybe that's good for Biden. Maybe he's up a little bit more because I obviously was down this morning. So I know that they're still trying to get votes in Wayne and other county too that were typically, 2/3 or so pro Biden, which is good. He's got to win those states, obviously. But again, if we had done the early votes, those aren't votes. Those people aren't voting now. They voted yesterday and before.
Well,
that's still counting them.
About messaging that Henry was talking about, right? It's when you want to start the conspiracy theory on the other side, you start saying things like Trump said last night.
Yeah, right.
You got to stop counting. You got to stop votes from coming in. No. Votes are already in. Nobody is voting past when the thing closes. Voting is done. We are counting already existing votes. But like, again, language, as we know, we're in media and read, language is so important. All people hear is, oh my God, more votes are coming in. No. Votes are done. Ain't nobody voting. We're
Kavanaugh wrote a decision last week about this in the Supreme Court, that there had to be a winner on election night. Really? I believe it's almost exactly what he wrote, which of course there's no precedent for that. And he was the first one to really kind of break ranks. And that's why I have no faith in, and I know Amy Barrett could recuse herself. I just, in my opinion, no fucking way. No fucking way the kleptocrats are giving up America if they have a chance to have their say.
Is Amy Barrett's rationale for recusing herself more clear and stronger than Kavanaugh's?
Say it again.
I'm asking Judy if Amy Coney Barrett's rationale for recusing herself is like more clear than Kavanaugh's, because
I got no faith.
Did it just happen? I got it.
Yeah. I have no faith that she would do that. And she should. Judy's right. I mean, I adore Judy for her ethical outlook on the profession that I happen to really admire very much. I ain't buying it. Sorry, cynical as fuck old man here. Cynical as fuck old man here. That she's done nothing wrong to. I don't think her views are at all in line with pretty much anything I think. She's allowed to have her views, and she seems like she's a fine person and 7 kids and all of that. But she ain't doing the right thing, in my opinion. I hope I'm wrong.
Oh wow,
that's funny, Caleb.
I think I should tell you guys that. So before the show started, Judy has the ability to crack her knuckles like a prize fighter. And she was doing that, like, oh my God, if we ever get in some big fight and we go before the judge, can you please do that? And she was like, I
can do that too. I put in there, Judy, there's some good news. There's good things that happened yesterday. So Judy, a strong will. Did you guys see the story of the Navajo Indians who rode on horseback like for a long time to vote?
Yeah.
They literally had to take their horses in to go vote. It's sad to me that we have to have that, but nonetheless, we do. Like there's some really messed up things that, not to include, to at least include the fact that people can't even vote because they have to work, whatever. And then I have another one. I don't remember the good news, what that was, Judy, but there was something good yesterday that I pushed in. Let's see. I just don't remember what I put in there anymore. I should have put the note on that. But there were some good things that happened, and not to discount just people being nice.
Natalie Cohn.
Oh, this is Nate Cohn talking about it. It's there are people who think
news. I have some great news. Do you mind doing the dogs and movies one?
Yeah.
This is the best thing ever.
Oh, and then show the GIF I put in there, Judy, for best GIF ever. That's the funniest thing ever. Dogs and movies. Who tweeted this? Kelly Dwyer?
Hold on, it's coming up. Still a little patience. Here we go.
Oh. Everything is up. What? I feel bamboozled.
The dog just like, oh my God, I'm so good at this.
What is real anymore? What's real?
What is real? Yeah, maybe when they won't even be actors anymore, it'll all be CGI.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right, so here's the best GIF ever. You guys may have seen this one, but not relating to this election.
Yeah.
It's a two. Oh yeah, just wait. Watch this. You got to see the whole thing again. Hold on. So it's a penalty kick, and no fans are in the stands, and it hits the crossbow and goes straight up in the air, and the goalie goes crazy. And it still goes in the goal.
That's great.
Watch it one more time. Watch the referee. He never takes his eye off the ball. Look at this. So the goalie is cheering like crazy, but look at the referee. He is locked in right there.
Gotta watch it all the way.
Even the kicker was like hella dejected. The kicker was like, "It's over." He didn't even believe in himself.
Have you ever seen the movie Caddyshack? Have you ever seen the movie Caddyshack?
Yeah.
So in Caddyshack, the kid hits the putt to win. It falls a tiny bit short. Bill Murray blows up the golf course. Everyone's going crazy. There's explosions. But Bill Murray's brother in real life, who is the official scorekeeper of the match, he is locked in on the ball as it's kind of trembling before it goes in. And that's what that referee reminded me of. He's watching on that ball.
I'm actually thinking the Supreme Court is kind of like ref in this. and they're gonna have to like go to headquarters, the ref headquarters, and look at the screen. That's what it feels like right now.
We're all leaning on the little video.
Yeah.
Now, right? Yeah.
And then Stu Jackson comes in, or whoever is like,
Jackson.
That's what it's like. Judy, do you mind showing the Ilhan Omar link? It's the second one in the doc. There's also this, I feel like the messaging thing we're talking about in a way, like, okay, I said that, that's the right one, but my bad. Maybe I didn't link it. But basically there's a triumphant image of like the four, like AOC and Ilhan Omar, like Ayanna Pressley, like they all won.
Yeah, all four.
We don't know exactly, like maybe we're disappointed about, there we go, about the Democratic Party's messaging and its outreach and how it hasn't worked the way we want it to work, whatever. But like smart people will be around to do better, right?
Yeah.
Not only that, the squad has doubled, right? Because we have Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, right? There is more of a progressive wing and younger Democrats coming into the party. What you hope is that they, over time, because it ain't gonna happen overnight, they then become the party leadership and majority, and they move the party further left than what it is now, which is basically moderate to Republican light, right? Like that's where they want to move it.
Or they then run for president, AOC. Like, when is she gonna turn 35? Like, well, I'm
so
here
funny because I think did I put it in last week's Bring It In? I don't remember. But she talked about it. There's a profile of her in Vanity Fair. And she, her thing was like, I will run for higher office if I feel as though I'm going to actually make a difference in that next level up. Henry, to your point, she doesn't believe in the one savior myth. Like, this doesn't work that way. Like, great, I could be governor, but if I'm not going to impact any change, well, what difference? I might as well stay where I am, where I'm actually doing work on the ground. So it's about a coalition, right? We have to hope that the squad becomes more than just the squad, and that is actually the party, and they can shift the party's policy. And then it's like, okay, we've got a full machine behind these people, and they do what they can. Again, that's going to take years, right? It won't happen tomorrow, but that's our hope. That's why we have to continue participating in this democracy.
They can lead if Biden's president. He's going to want to expand healthcare, make it more. I mean, it's just so crazy expensive and everything now, if you can even get it. And the people want it by an overwhelming majority. People want it. And so on both sides of both of the aisle, so they can spearhead the effort to make sure what Obama did and just make it better. And that would be like, if we're going to, as we always say, if you want to get better at anything, you got to practice doing it. If you want to get better at acting as a singular, united country, you got to practice doing it. So you got to find, and Henry mentioned this before, you got to find low-hanging fruit that you all hate. And then the stuff that you all like these are things we all want to do and want to accomplish. So let's unite to do that. If Mitch McConnell will allow that to happen, I don't know. And we haven't talked about Nancy Pelosi. If indeed they're controlling Congress, the Dems, they probably need a new leader, a new voice. And I'm fine with that. Nothing against her at all. There's plenty of really impressive women that could be in her place. I also am curious, and again, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but someone tweeted earlier, basically Stacey Abrams should have whatever cabinet position she wants. Hell yeah. That's the first call if I'm Joe Biden is what do you want, Stacey? Just pick your bailiwick, right?
We keep talking about this common enemy, right? I feel like a hella cynic sometimes, and I'm just like, get it together, Adena. But if we can't rally around the thing that makes us sick and kills us, what can we? Like, it was war, but like you said, Henry, we got a war, right? Maybe not Black Lives Matter, right? Like, we've been there, done that. That's not. But this is the one thing. We're all humans. We all have immune systems, but we can't rally around that. And what can
what are you talking about? It's a hoax. Coronavirus isn't real.
Exactly. It's like we can't rally around what is a fact, what is happening. I mean, but the fact is that, over 200,000 people are dead. So, and I really do feel like that is because we've put so much doubt in facts, in the press, and all these things. I just wonder, what is the thing that's going to be our common enemy?
Well, we thought, I remember when Trump was on his inauguration day, and they were like, oh, it's the biggest crowd ever. And I was like, and then that was the day that Kellyanne Conway talked about they were alternative facts. And I remember thinking, on the one hand, I'm like, who gives a shit what these idiots say? Like, this is so comically inaccurate. Like, wah, like whatever, right? But like the downside of that thing playing out, right, is like when they basically, the phrase fake news is exactly why it starts then, right? And it's exactly why we're here, right? It's like people are capable of not believing in COVID-19 because they've been trained not to believe in the 50 things that came before it, right?
Yeah, you start small, right? You start small with the crowd size, and then it turns into the sky's not blue, and you're like, sounds good, you know?
And there are all these like, you know, I do feel there's like a little bit of, it feels like 8th grade, no, maybe 4th grade, where it's like, you know, some kids who got good grades are kind of lectury and overbearing, and the rest of the kids are like, shut the fuck up, right? And this is basically the media now, right? like, oh, that's not the right way. You should wear a mask. And everyone's just like,
they're like, shut up, nerd.
Shut up, nerd.
Forever.
I think we've got a data guy on next week, so we'll get some information more from him, and we'll have a lot of reading between now and then. But what do y'all think? How do you, Judy just showed us, looks like Biden won Wisconsin by 20,000 votes. He was plus 11 yesterday by 538. I adore Nate Silver. I love it's the science of polls. How do you miss it that badly? What do you think's going on?
I have some theories.
I want to hear them. Yeah.
Who answers the phone?
Well,
I know we don't.
That's number one. Like in 2020, how many people are answering a phone and giving you a full report on these questions?
People are.
Stranger, what would you like to know?
So do you think it's all people just talking shit?
There's that. And I think the poll, and again, I gotta keep beating this drum, the science cannot account for racism. Like, how do you, right? How do I tell what's in somebody's heart, right?
But that means they're lying, which I'm not telling you they're not. I'm only asking to understand what you're saying. You're saying people are answering the phone. Why? I don't know. We don't. And they're saying, yeah, we're going to vote for Biden, and here's why. But then when
I'm saying that the people who don't answer the phone, which is everyone, don't get polled. So they're polling a really weird subset of people who do answer their phone, which is like your grandma, right? Like it's just not a representative sample, right? If you're sophisticated,
so that's okay. It's not a representative. That's what you're saying.
Right? So yeah, so to me, like so I like if you're good at your phone, you don't get polled, right? If you
so they've got to change. They got to change. I mean, this was what people were getting all over Nate Silver for last night. Basically, I felt bad for him, as I told you, because they're going to fire him. Like, you have to close it down. He went from being the super smartest guy ever in polling to you've now grossly missed 2 presidential elections in terms of not, again, he had Trump 25% chance to win 4 years ago. I'm not discrediting him at all for that. But all this work that he accounted for, I'm just telling you what people are saying.
No, I get it. But
now, you missed Wisconsin by 11. He won by 20,000 votes. That's a dead heat.
Okay, so Nate Silver has one trick, right?
Yeah.
Which is he weights the polls.
Right. He's not even doing the
polls.
Right.
He weights the polls. Like, how accurate is this poll versus that one historically, right? This is exactly like John Hollinger weighting the box score.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. Like, how much is a free throw worth compared to a vote? The PER is, right? Like, that's probably not the trick anymore.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Right.
So because the polls aren't like, so without Nate Silver, he publishes that list of like YouGov and Ipsos and without Nate Silver, you interpret that. You look at the little list of Ipsos, whatever. Guess what? You're gonna suck at it, right? Like, that's not better either. The problem is that like the box score is not good raw material for the PER, and those polls aren't good raw material for Nate Silver's. Like, Nate Silver's just the most popular face of crappy polls.
Exactly. I agree. And he's a brilliant guy. What you're saying is it's like trying to figure out if someone played well if all you knew was how many field goal attempts they took. That's how bad the data is for these polls now because of the hard way to get it actually accurate, representative.
Somehow Trump's campaign knew down to the county like where they had to be active, and they were accurate. So like, and meanwhile, when we were all getting excited about Biden's up 12 in Florida, like the Biden campaign was like, that's crackers. Like, there's no way that's real. They knew. There's polling that's good. It's just not that we don't have it, right?
This actually reminds me of a job I didn't get, which I wanted to be at the LA Times, and I wanted to get phone calls from coaches, and they were reporting box scores, and then I reported to the sports desk. I applied like 3 times and didn't get it. But yeah, I know, traumatizing. But I was like, that's what we need. Like Nate needs that. But if Judy pulls up this awful announcing thing, that I don't know if you guys saw this, like Darren Ravel and Nate Silver were going back and forth. And like you said, I feel bad for the guy, right? Can you scroll down, Judy? Darren Ravel, he since deleted the tweet where he starts off saying, basically criticizing, he says, in 2016 election day, 538 gave Donald Trump a 28.6% chance to win the election. They got wrong, got destroyed. Today on election day, they give Trump a 10% chance. And then Darren and Nate Silver ended up going back and forth. Nate was like, you know, it's pretty fucking stupid to criticize my forecast. And Darren's like, I wasn't criticizing. And then Nate's like, but I am criticizing you. I was like, all right, Nate. And then, you know, he took that chance to go at him. And here we are again. But like you said, the data is just inaccurate.
So here's what's interesting, because I did follow this all night. Again, I was just outside by the fire. Darren Ravel, because in America, apparently you can't take action on the presidential election, but you can overseas. So Darren Ravel was reporting on the sports gambling, the sports gamblers in Europe that were actually betting on the presidential election. And it was very heavily Biden favorite to hugely favorite Trump. And then it started swinging back and forth. Obviously they were wrong early, they were wrong later. And it turns out that now it looks like Biden has a real good chance, but maybe that's what ends up happening. That's Henry's whole crowd thing. Where is the crowd going? Where are the Sharpies going? That might be the way we have to prognosticate going forward.
There are a lot of tools for predicting the future, and polls are not known to be one of the best ones, right?
Yeah,
like
there you go.
Henry, how much of this is, as a country and a society, we're just bad, like as a, at looking at data and numbers and hearing what people say when they say things, right? Like, it's this idea of when we hear Nate Silver or whoever or anybody, whenever they see we as a collective, we see numbers on a thing, I feel like we expect them to be definitive, right? When in reality, that's not how this goes. Like, he didn't say he had no chance of win. 10% means, guess what? It in the realm of statistical possibility. Like, that's what that means.
And he's gonna lose.
But like, it's just like
right. But and if you accounted those early votes early, he would have lost by 10 o'clock.
So I do think that there's one other part of this, and I don't want to like apologize for, too many people here, but okay, so let's pretend that, heaven forbid, somebody you love gets some terrible disease, and now you go to the doctor and you have to learn about the disease, and you will have to then you start Googling, you kind of become a little mini expert in the disease, right? Mm-hmm. At that point, you understand it's complicated. And like, if this, then that, and if this, then that, we're looking for this, and here's the interim step, and like, that's how data is, right? It's this giant forest of like, everything's a little like, if you've got Nate Silver at dinner over a couple of drinks, like, oh my gosh, like the nuances of this county in Wisconsin and this thing in Florida and the Cuban population and blah, 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 right? Like, he's not a dumb guy. He can go through all this with you. But what he's doing is what we do, which is we're communicating about something people don't have time for, right? Like, the NBA is a little passing hobby for most people. Like, I've written a lot of like 20,000 word things about like, and everyone's like, what the hell is this? Like, I just want to know if like Dirk's gonna make 10 threes tonight because they have some money riding on it. It's like people want the unnuanced version, which is why Nate Silver has to pay a lot of money to people who make cute little charts that make it seem like it's dead simple. Because if they make it like it really is, they won't read it.
Yeah,
so, like, I think it's just like the simple, like, to your point, sorry, Dave, almost done.
No, it's okay.
I think we're good at this on the things that we have time for, on the things that matter to us, where we do our homework. But this isn't one of them for most of us, right? Like, most of us we Twitter consume this, which means we're kind of dumb at it,
And there's to Jarod's thing about the inherent racism and people, not wanting to come out with it. I listened to Charlie Cook. I think it was on Monday, who writes the Cook Political Report, right? He's in charge of it. A brilliant apolitical, I would almost argue, in terms of sides. They're just kind of giving you the facts, I think, anyway. And he had Biden in a landslide. The question was just how big the landslide was. Now, is he getting most information from polls and Nate Silver? Maybe so, which is why all of this needs to be rethought, right? Maybe, you can't keep people from publishing wherever they want to, but I won't be looking at polls anymore.
No, and
I won't be. I may be looking at odds more than polls.
Like when Henry brought up, us studying illnesses, I mean, I stubbed my toe and I'm like, do I need Tommy John surgery? And then like mixing what Jarod said, it's like, yeah, if someone says you have a 20% chance of living from this thing, right? You can still live, and there's a possibility, and no one's going to be like, damn, that book was wrong, and want it to be the 80% to be correct. So Nate's not necessarily wrong. It's just that the 10% is it's not coming true. The game is not won, but that's all. Last election.
Yeah. And you can't predict for cheating like you couldn't 4 years ago, the Russian thing. And now I just read about I don't know if maybe Randy sent it to us. The U.S. Postal Service claimed that a huge number of ballots weren't accounted for in South Florida. Like,
there's 300,000.
The Club Democrats are doing their thing. That's for sure. Like, they don't want to give up. I told Henry yesterday, when the Club Democrats have a country like America with our multi-trillion-dollar bank account, in a sense, they ain't gonna give it up because of some election. Hell fucking no for that.
Wait,
election? What?
We didn't talk about who burst the pipe in Georgia last night.
Exactly. That's the pulling the plug.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the pulling the plug. Yeah. It was like, dude, like you said, they by any means necessary in this piece.
Hell yeah. That's the first pipe. I'm just telling you, somewhere along the line, there was a conversation, and the guy said, the guy probably said, I don't have to kill anyone. I just have to bust a pipe. What? I don't have to bust a cap in someone's ass like it's supposed to pipe? Fantastic. Problem. Like, that's the best. Yeah, this is America's the best. No one has to be murdered. And I can make sure I rig an election. Fantastic.
Like I'm not sure about right now, but I did see this tweet, and I don't think I put it in our document, unfortunately. But before everybody started, like yesterday morning, in the betting market, in one of the betting markets, Biden was some 64-ish% to win.
Yeah.
And then we all just watched CNN or whatever you like watching, right? And then it goes like crazy Trump, and then 24 hours later, it's exactly where it was.
Yeah.
Which means all that happened was we watched some TV and got a little kooky in the middle, but like actually all of the inputs feeding into the betting markets, and betting markets have a particular reason to be accurate, right? Which is people have a tendency when you put money on it to stop listening to what you want to have happen and to instead think about you want to keep your money, right? But anyway, it's like they were totally accurate and then totally inaccurate and then accurate again. So there's some hope in that, I guess.
But it's also it's this weird like cognitive dissonance we have, Henry, right? Where like the people tell us what's going on and what's going to happen, but like we don't believe them, right? Yeah. The idea that, okay, overwhelmingly early votes and mail-in votes happen to be overwhelmingly Democrat. Day of votes happen to be overwhelmingly Republican. And when you looked at how that's exactly what happened, right? Like in the states where you can count them early, oh look, and then it followed it to a T. And in the states where they didn't count the votes, to Coach's point, wow, Trump was ahead. And then the next day, oh, look, we started counting the mail-in votes. Now it flipped the other way. But like, for whatever reason, like, and I think we had a data scientist on early in the pandemic. So much of it is about our emotion, right? Like we allow that to like dictate and drive like what we think versus like, well, hold on. Like this is actually playing out exactly the way like they've been telling us it was going to play out.
Yeah, well, it's also shut up nerd, right? It's like, stop counting numbers. It's too much.
Everyone's like, I want more accuracy from the most confusing thing ever, but I can't use math and stuff. It's like, oh, well, what are we supposed to use? Come on.
Well, yeah, and then this whole, it's of the blue wave and coming in and how like it was all written. It's the reason why a lot of my friends were like, oh, we're gonna stay up and drink and see the results. I was like, you do know that this is gonna take like 2 to 3 days afterwards, right? It's just numbers. No one's counting these mail-in ballots. So I'm not even fretting. Maybe I'll get my wine like 2 days from now, but
it'd be great. It'd be great to have a landslide, especially on the side of if it's the side you're voting for. Most of our elections are close, right? That's just we should be. Jarod was talking earlier about the media. I never thought about it. They want you to keep watching for sure.
Sure.
And so I'm not even casting terrible dispersions on them, but we probably should rethink how all of this works if we're trying to actually not have such a divisive, evening, right?
Yeah.
I'm with you, but like it's like the media landscape is absolutely covered in examples of people who try to do like the high-minded thing. And do you know what happens? Nobody fucking bothers.
No one watches. Yeah.
Like, Like the more responsible version where they don't have like the dun dun, like all that stuff. Like,
right. It can't come from the media. I agree.
Every single election, you can find a channel where they're doing that, but you're not watching that channel, are you? Like when I was in journalism school, I would walk to the class and be like, oh, everybody should be just like, whatever academic journal they were high on that week, right? But you walk by and the back of the New York Post says like, like naked strippers again. And like, you kind of know what's going to work, right?
I think we'd all have to agree. I mean, because at the end of the day, they're all competing with each other, right? Like if one person gets a telestrator, then this other one has to have like a virtual thing, And I also think it's sad that the same tools we use like to in the NBA, we're using, on media for election. That shouldn't happen. But what should happen though is like, remember back in the day when you had to watch, if you wanted to know what was on TV, that channel guide, and it was scroll up.
Yes,
and,
I remember.
Yeah, and you had to like, if channel 60 went by, you had to wait 3 more minutes. Or like, everyone should just agree, like, shut it down, one channel, watch it roll in, so that this hysteria doesn't happen. But that would mean the capitalist machine would have to stop. And Jarod, we know that doesn't.
Listen, that ain't never stopping.
A really weird thing happened last night, which was, so we're with my in-laws here, and there are 4 adults in the house, and my kids are pretty big now, and they're following us too. So they're like, we each have like a device or 2, and the TV's on. Like it was just like everybody's getting their like updates from everywhere. And my brother-in-law pointed out that like I was finding some funny tweet and sharing it with the group, and it was like he was just randomly logging on to Twitter and finding the same. Twitter's algorithm was giving him like the same exact funny thing that I found.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, well, it feels like we're all siloed, but actually it's almost just like 30 years ago where there's like only 3 channels with the same thing on it. You know what I mean? I was like, we're actually all finding the same exact things. Like,
and then you just pick your channel that you want to watch. I like NBC because they've got the color, or, whatever. But
yeah,
I didn't watch any of it. I didn't have the TV on last night, but I can't watch Rick Santorum. So let me just be clear on that. If you're listening, Rick, I can't stomach it. That is not a guy that would ever want to hang out with ever for 1 second.
There are a lot of people like that.
I have a lot of friends that are Republicans. Just I ain't sitting with that guy.
I was like, I wonder if John King's hair is going to move at any point tonight. It was like it never moved.
I heard he was amazing, John King. I like him very much. I heard he was really good last night.
Henry, you know what I watched last night? I was watching, no surprise here, the Young Turks, and it was interesting because Cenk and Anna, they don't have like electoral map and all that shit. Like, it's just like they get they do on like the website, but like not with what you're watching on TV. So they just go, oh, looks like this. And then like, they'll talk about like, all right, like here's the stronghold here. Here's the progressive wing of this is what we need. Like it's, yes, of course it's slanted because they want progressives, but like, it was sort of interesting not to hear that Wolf Blitzer, dun, key battle state alert. I was like, all right, what? I'm like, I don't know. This was actually fine. Like I'm listening and like, I'm getting more nuance about stuff. It was an experience.
I tuned out. If I watched Good Trouble, the story of John Lewis, and I recommend anyone to watch it. It actually explains how the hell we got here with 4 polling places in Houston or things like that. And he's just all around a good man, and I think you should check it out.
Good Trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a hero, and we need those right now.
Yeah,
we might end up having to make some Good Trouble, I guess. Hopefully.
Yes, let's do it.
But hopefully by Friday we'll know, and we'll have something to toast.
Yeah. What do you think? What's your best? You think Friday we're gonna have a result?
I think we'll have a result, and then we'll have to go to the Supreme Court, and that'll take a bit because they have to go. It's got to go through the system first. That's what I think.
What do you think, Adena?
So no celebration Friday for True Hoop. I'm gonna give it like 2 weeks, like you said. The Supreme Court. I mean, the Supreme Court moves fast, though, right? So maybe next week.
I think in a couple of days it'll be decided, right? And then it'll be Friday, we'll know, and then we'll see Trump contest and do what he does, and we'll get a decision hopefully within a week or so, 2 weeks max after that.
I'm gonna err on the side of optimism and just say that it's not going to the Supreme Court. This is my guess. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm right, but
yeah,
we all do, and we hope Judy's right too. We hope Judy's right that he goes to Russia afterwards, because I do think he'll leave the country.
He's gonna, yeah. That's a whole other topic we should talk about. But
yeah, I've been saying he's never.
Because I really do recommend this guy Malcolm Nance, who's written some books. He just check it out. He's on. I have been following him on Twitter for years, but I did notice him on the crazy Michael Cohen podcast. But they talk a lot about where Trump will go, and it's kind of amazing. And now that's our cue. We got to go. Thank everyone for this therapy session.
Breathe, everyone. Breathe and be safe.
Breathe and be safe.
Bye.
See you guys.